Good day, everyone. This is the more complex nested if function I mentioned in the previous video that I will be making a video session for. Here we have a destination board for people. The people are availed the route type and steps. Column A to E contains the names of the people and their selections, while column F contains the if function that was used to determine their destination based on their selections. When you select a route type, whichever one you select determines if you're going to select a step and what steps you'll be allowed to select. And also, depending on the kind of step you select, based off the route type that precedes it, it will also determine if you are going to make a selection in step 2. We're going to explain this using a flowchart diagram. As mentioned in the previous video, green arrows represent yes, red arrows represent no. Then you have your flowchart symbol representation. This flowchart diagram is a pictorial view of what goes on in the if function process, having to select or check which of the route type has been selected and looking through the dependence of each route type. In this diagram, we have 0 as our default value should in case it breaks at any point and doesn't follow suit with any of the directions. You can see default value of odd is 0, default value of normal is 0, and also the dependence of normal is 0, and dependence of NN4 is also 0. I won't be using this so that we'll get a clearer picture. Let's look at this next slide. Here you can see that the default values have been changed. We have 0 null, n null, nn4 null, and we have blank, which is the general default value if none of these route types were chosen. You understand all this better by the time I start explaining. Let me also show you the Excel file that has been upgraded. You can see that here, where we use 0 as the default value, if there's any break or fault along the line, every single thing has 0. You cannot differentiate between when the if function process was terminated. That is, was it after a route type selection was made and the dependent was not available, or was it that the route type selected is not present on the dashboard? For instance, let's look at row 9, where John's route type selection was normal and the step 1 dependent was NN4. And if you see, after selecting NN4, you're supposed to make another selection under step 2 because NN4 has NN5 and NN8 under step 2. You're supposed to select one of them. So in his case, he did not select anything, which leads to him having a default value as his destination. In the first formula where we made 0 the default value all through, you can see that you wouldn't know that that is where the if function process ended. In the second formula, you would know that that is exactly where the if function ended after I selected NN4 and he didn't select anything under step 2. It just points you directly to where the process ended. If you look at Samuel in row 13, he made a choice of odd in the route type, but did not select any of the dependents in step 1, which also leads to a default value. And here in the first formula, it has 0. When the second formula, it has 0 null. So you see the differences. Back to this normal, I skipped to row 10. Row 10, Isaac chose normal, but did not choose anything under step 1. He didn't choose NN1, he didn't choose NN4, which takes us to a default value. and the default value is 0. But in this case, it puts in n null. So you can see that between John and Isaac, you can tell where their process terminated because of the kind of default value that we put in. Let's move to the slide so we can continue. In the process of creating the if function, we check if the route type selected was odd. If odd, then we check the step. Is it 001? If yes, we take destination 1, then process stops. If not 001, it checks if it's 005. If it's 005, it takes destination 2, the process stops. If not 005, it puts in the default value 0 null, as explained earlier, showing us that he actually made a route type selection of odd, but he didn't select any step that is available for the odd route type. So it has a 0 null, then it stops. Back to odd. If it doesn't select odd, we'll check if the person selected even. If even, then you take destination 3 and stop. This is pretty straightforward, like the first if function we did in the previous video. But if not even, it goes to normal to check if it is normal. If it's normal, it checks if it is NN1. If it is NN1, it takes destination 4, then stops. If it's not NN1, it checks if it's NN4. If it's NN4, it doesn't stop there. It does another check. If it is NN5, if it is NN5, it takes destination 5, then stop. If it is not NN5, it checks if it's NN8. If it's not NN8, if it's NN8, it takes destination 6, then stop. If it's not NN8, it then puts NN4 null as the default value, then stops. This points us to the fact that it already selected NN4 under step 1, but did not make any selection under step 2. Then back to NN4. If it is not NN4, it puts in n null, meaning it has checked it's not NN1, it's not NN4, it's no value under the step 1 that is dependent under normal. So it puts in n null, then stops. But if it is not normal, meaning it's not odd, it's not even, it's not normal, it puts in the blank. This is the general default value. If it is none of the route type at all, then it stops. Let's look at the if function itself. This is the breakdown of the if function for the individual route type. Please note that B2, C2, D2 represents the cells containing the values in the Excel file. I'm just using this to explain the if function. The odd route type goes as follows. If B2 is equal odd, you take the true part. If it's not equal odd, you take the false part. So the green represents true, red represents false. So we're saying it's true. Since it's true, we check is C2, that's the step to select after selecting the odd route type. Is it 001? If yes, take destination 1. If no, check if it's 005. If yes, take destination 2. If no, put 0 null as the default value. Then the process ends. But if B2 is not equal odd, it takes blank, which is the false value. The even route type is pretty straightforward. If B2 is equal even, it takes destination 3. If it's not equal even, it takes blank. Then we have the normal route type, almost same as the odd route type, just that it has more branches, I'll say. If B2 is equal normal, you take the true part. If it's not equal normal, you take the false part. So if we take the true part, we'll check the step that was chosen after normal. Is C2 equal NN1, take destination 4. If it's not equal NN1, check if it's equal NN4. If it's equal NN4, you take the true part. If not, you put in n null as the default value. This is showing that it actually chose the route type normal, but none of the step 1 values were chosen. That's why you have n null as the default value. So let's look at the true parts saying nn4 was true. It then checks the step 3 value nn5, that is d2 equals nn5. If yes, it takes destination 5, then ends. If not, it checks if it was equal nn2. Sorry, nn8. If it's equal nn8, it takes destination 6. And if it's not equal nn8, it takes nn4 null as the default value. This goes to show that the normal route type was selected, then in step 1, nn4 was selected, then in step 2, none of the values that are dependent on nn4 was selected, hence the nn4 null, which is the default value. Please observe that the route type if function have blank. They all have blank as their default value. See that of odd, that of even, and that of normal. Then this is the combination of the if function for the individual route type. We're just putting the if functions together. The first if function is the odd route type, and the default value or the false value is blank. We're now replacing the false value with the if function for even, because if it's not odd, then it goes to the default. So default is to check if it's even. If it's even, it checks it. If it's not even, it goes to blank. But we don't want blank. We want to check the third option, which is the normal route type. So we'll replace this blank here with the normal route type function, and at the end of the normal route type if function, we have the blank. So automatically they all have blank as their default value. Should in case none of the route type present on the dashboard was selected, you can see the 3 closing brackets for the individual if functions for the route type. The colors are just to differentiate the individual route type if function. I hope this helps you when you're creating your next if function, your next nested if function. Please also take note of the default values when creating your own if function. You use default value that sends a message. It's not really advisable to use a general default value. Then in Excel, we should know that using double quotes twice depicts blank, should in case you are confused. Thank you very much for your time. I hope this helps someone out there.